to the OT, HIC, G to the OT, HIC for LIFE, G to the OT, HIC. Greetings, mammals. It's your homie, Reverend Leviathan, and here I am with Steve Scavuzzo. Is that correct?
Scavuzzo, close enough though. I told you. You should
Yeah.
have stuck with
Okay, I'll
Steve.
just put- Yeah, Steve with Clouds Taste Satanic, the instrumental doom metal band based out of Brooklyn, New York. So, Steve, thank you very much for being with Darkest Goth, man.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and I will go ahead and say I came upon Clouds Taste Satanic on Instagram following the doom metal hashtag, just scrolling through and saw the name. And if you could, but like, what's the story behind the name of the band? Because that's definitely the first thing that caught my attention.
Yeah,
So, can you tell us a little bit about the name and history of the band?
absolutely. So there's a Flaming Lips record called Clouds Taste Metallic, and it came out probably, I guess, in the 90s. And I've always been a big Flaming Lips fan. Um, and for some reason, that name of that record always intrigued me. I was, something about it was really weird and thought-provoking. And, when you're coming up with a band name, you can, that can really go sideways quickly. You can come up with something very clever and get sick of it real quick. But when I was putting together Cloud Stay Satanic, I was kind of think of I kind of remembered back to that album name, and but I wanted to kind of put our spin on it because we were going to be a little more doomy, a little more dark, and didn't want to be confused as a Flaming Lips cover band. So put that together, and yeah, some people love it, some people are confused by it, but for the most part, we've been real happy with having it. It hasn't worn out its welcome.
Yeah, okay. Well, the second thing that caught my attention on that post that I first saw you on was definitely this album cover. So, would definitely like to talk about this album that dropped last year, 79 AE, which is that After Extinction? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, with with you guys being instrumental, so like what drove you guys to be instrumental rather than actually having vocals?
We kind of grew out of like a strong post-rock element. Like when we started, there was the idea that, with bands like Godspeed You Black Emperor, and even with Sun and Earth, heavier bands that really caught our attention without having a vocalist. And we always had a somewhat of a cinematic bent too, with enjoying soundtrack music. So I think at the time it was like, we wanted to try and create something that was somewhat unique, not totally unique. It's not like we came up with the idea, but um, there was a certain appeal of not having vocals and the focus of the music being on, the individual instruments. When you have a vocalist in a band, and vocalists can be amazing and bring so much to a band, but they do tend to be omnipresent. You put a vocal on any song and you listen to that song for the first time, really whether you like or dislike that song is disproportionately going to land on what you feel about that singer. And we found that we were like, well, you know what? You don't have the singer. You're really just focusing on the riffs. You're focusing on the music. You're focusing on the vibe. And it's not exactly a pathway to stardom. You don't sell a million records being an instrumental doom band, but we really felt like we had something to say musically, and the level of popularity was somewhat irrelevant compared to like just making the music. And we've been happy from the beginning. And there's a substantial number of people out there who dig instrumental music, and or as a part of their collection. It doesn't have to be their sole interest, but can appreciate just listening sometimes.
Yeah. So like with focusing on the music, like, I'm not very familiar with a whole lot of doom metal instrumentals. with the music being the core focus, and it seems like with your all's catalog, it seems like a lot of these albums are concept albums. Do you rely on the music to really tell the story, or do you guys just get together and jam out and be like, okay, what are we going to call this one?
No, we're 100% into concepts, and we do not jam at all. We work, and when as far as like creating things. So every record is started out with a concept in mind before even any music is written. It's basically going into a project. What is it we're going to try and say? What is this record going to be about? And that's involved in probably every stage of the creation of the record, from the writing of the music to to the band playing it and learning it, and to the recording and to the artwork, and everything that you see at the end product had a basis of some sort of concept at the beginning, and we've always dealt that way, and relied on that to try and tell a story with the music.
And without lyrics, it seems like you got to put a hell of a lot more work into the music to make sure you're able to do that.
Oh, it has to be engaging because yeah, there's no vocals to rely on. You just can't throw together a couple of chords and say, okay, well, throw some lyrics on top of this and that'll tell the story. So you've got to be constantly engaging and making even the simplest riffs interesting, or if you want to go off on a more involved tangent, do that as well too. And then that's part of the enjoyment of the creative process with this. And every instrument has got to be doing something for a purpose, not just chilling out, letting someone else carry the load, unless it's a guitar solo. And
Mhm.
everyone can take a break. But yeah, it requires a lot of thought and in the creation process for sure.
What kind of feedback have you all gotten on your latest album, 79 AE?
It's been very positive. I mean, we've been lucky with all of our releases, and for the most part, it's probably part of the doom community or stoner community or just underground metal in general. People, fans tend to be very supportive. It's a very insular group of people who appreciate that kind of music, and for the most part, they're very positive people. They're just like, and what purpose does it serve? It's easy to, like, trash the latest Metallica record, and say, oh, that sucks. They're never going to be the same. But for, smaller bands that are like, really trying to make an effort, there's no benefit to trashing some band that's got, 1% of the following of a Metallica or anyone else like that. So I guess most people go under the rule that it's, if you don't have anything nice to say, you don't say anything at all. But there are people who are really into instrumental music, and we've had people have been very positive about what we've been doing over the years, and it's been very encouraging, as far as the creative process to move forward, and we don't really feel constrained because we got a lot of support.
Yeah. Now, is this strictly like a studio project, or do you guys actually do like live performances?
We do. We don't tour as much as other bands, so we do a little bit of it, but we try and do any touring that we do based around festivals. So last year we went to Europe for a couple of weeks and played Desert Fest London, and we'd also played Desert Fest New York last year, the year before. And so we do travel and we do play live, but it's less of the, kind of get in the van and go out for a couple of weeks type of thing. We try to book festivals and we try to play shows around that to see different parts of the world. But yeah, we're constantly on the lookout for getting out and playing shows.
Okay. And like one song lasting like 20 something minutes, doesn't drive the crowd away or anything like that.
No, and it certainly makes writing a set list quite easy.
Oh, I would
If you
agree
get a
with you.
40-minute set, and you do 20-minute songs, you don't even have to write it on a piece of paper. You can very well memorize what you're going to play.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think with I'd like to think that festivals have a lot of different bands going on, and people come to see a lot of different types of bands. So it, it's uh, it, it's something to think about, but at the end of the day, there are times when we'll gear more exciting elements of some of our songs to for live setting. But for the most part, we want to try and play what we do, play what we play on the records. And people are interested, awesome. If they're not, that's a good time to take a bathroom break.
And have you thought about like experimenting with other instruments, like maybe adding keyboards to certain tracks, anything like that?
Oh yeah, we have actually in the past. There's been various elements. There's a couple of times that we've added mellotron. There's kind of synth sounds in the back to some extent. There's not a lot, and most of the sounds you hear are guitar based, and even some of the weirder sounds. Brian plays, who also plays guitar, uses a lot of different pedals. So sometimes things that can sound like synths or keyboards actually are guitar based, but we have no problem with that. And as far as percussion ideas, and really kind of prefer pushing the music forward. I know that we're going to be back in the studio in March, and and the goal will be to try and add even more diversified instrumentation, keyboards, piano, maybe even some strings. We can get that together. We'll see.
Oh, that would be pretty awesome. Yeah. So, like, all your guys' musical influences. Like, what would you say is your all's individual musical influences?
Brian and I would say we probably go deeper. Everyone starts with the world starts with Black Sabbath and moves forward from that. But we probably definitely have more of an old school metal appreciation or classic rock appreciation. But we tons of other things as well. Greg and Rob are a little younger, and so the world revolves around The Cure and Radiohead, and more of a goth influence to some extent as well too. So all of our interests are broad, and obviously they all intersect at Clouds. But um, I would say that there's always that battle between you know going classic and pushing forward, try and do something a little weirder, which is great. I'm really glad that I'm in a band with three other guys that want to push the envelope, and that
Oh, yeah.
and their influences and having that stuff always comes up, and hopefully we can add that to the music.
I mean, that's one of the things that I've really enjoyed is it seems like you guys are able to do that not just with different songs, but within the song itself, especially with how long the song may last. Like one of my favorite songs of your all's is 10 Kings on Your Doom Has Come. Because it
Right.
seems like you all are able to mesh those just in that one song. I can hear the Sabbath influence with some of the guitar solos, and you get a little bit further into it, and also, like you said, the newer sound as you get a little deeper as well. So just all of that together in the song Ten Kings, like that song's been on repeat numerous times.
Oh, nice, nice. Thank you. Yeah, I think it's really important, especially if you're playing longer songs, to. I mean, oftentimes we'll use like a classical music template as you're introducing an idea, and you might revisit that same idea, towards the end of the song. But in between, you're like, there's different movements, and you
Mhm.
want to try to have different elements also to keep our interest as far as playing goes. It's not even about necessarily about the listening. It's one grinding riff for 20 minutes, which has been done before. And if you're a fan of Sun or Earth, um or even Sleep, you're gonna find an ability to subtle changes have the magic all their own. But we tend to want to push the envelope a little bit and try different sections, but make sure that they all kind of work together and flow from one to the other, and then just bring it all back home at the end, by the end, for sure.
Okay. Now, I hate Mariah Carey, but
Who
last year
doesn't?
you all released an EP that actually got me listening to a version of that song. All I Want for Christmas Is Your Soul.
Right. Yes.
So, yeah, what inspired you all to do an instrumental doom metal version of "All I Want for Christmas Is You"?
Well, we're very much a democracy. So when someone has an idea of like, wow, wouldn't it be interesting to put together like a Christmas record? No other doom band has done that. Everyone needs to, try and wrap their head around the concept before before the knives start flying. And we had done a covers record a couple of years ago, and it was an enjoyable process. We didn't cover Mariah Carey back then, but it was fun and it was very well received. And so the concept of doing covers in and of itself was not that foreign. The Christmas thing was a little weird off the tangent, and certainly the suggestion of a Mariah Carey tune was like, whoa, okay. But everyone tries to keep an open mind, and it's like, okay, well, let's try it, see what happens, and got it together, and it was fine. I mean, again, none of us are out buying Mariah Carey records, but I think that was part of the enjoyment of doing the song. Some of the other songs, there was a Spinal Tap song on that EP, which was a no-brainer, and even the Grinch was like, okay, well, everyone can get behind the Grinch. But it was like, yeah, let's try this and see what happens. And I think not having a singer also makes things a little more. People tend to be a little more open-minded because if you hate Mariah Carey, and that song in particular, 99% of it is probably Mariah Carey singing, as opposed to maybe the tune per se. You're just
Mhm.
not, you're sick of it. And so we tend to get a little more leeway with our tunes, even covering something like that because they're instrumental. And it was fun. I honestly, we did 4 songs for the EP, and we were considering adding some more last year. We were like, well, maybe we should turn this into an LP, and everyone was like, no. It was like groans for that. So we might have seen the last of the Mariah Carey covers for a while.
Okay. Well, and I noticed that until I got the vinyl, you guys had on the back of the vinyl 2 different speeds you could play it at for either like maximum, like what did it say?
Fidelity and maximum
Fidelity.
doom.
Yeah, so maximum view for like, so I played it at both speeds, and I was like, I like it at the slower speed.
That's
So,
great. That's great. When we,
so
when we were doing we sent when we were ordering the vinyl, um, essentially we just assumed it was going to be 33 and a third speed. And so they sent back the test pressings and they were done at 45. And we go, wow, this sounds really good, but that's not what we, ordered. And we contacted the plant. They're like, well, it sounds better at 45. So we're like, all right, fuck it. We're just going to we'll do it at 45. But it doesn't say anywhere on the actual record that it's supposed to be played at 45. So we're like,
mhm.
oh, well, we might as well throw a sticker on there at least to try and give people a clue that you've got some options there. You can play it at 45, which is technically the way it's supposed to be heard, but it also sounds good at 33. So you can make the choice. So that's how we covered our asses on that one.
It's definitely good.
Cool.
So, now, random fun question. So, like, if you could say drink or smoke with a random fictional character, who would that be?
Fiction. Oh, it's got to be fictional character.
Yeah.
Um, wow, that's a good question. Um, fictional character. Hmm. Um, who's that guy in Catcher in the Rye? Oh, his name. Can't remember that character's name. I guess I'd have to go like a cartoon, and I'd probably say SpongeBob.
SpongeBob.
I'm trying to think of someone who's going to be fun to drink with or smoke with for sure. Um, you know, or the guys that are Cheech and Chong, but I guess they're technically real people. So I'm not sure that I'm like, who's going
They're
to have as
real,
much fun?
they're fictional, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the characters per se are. Um, God, you know what? I really don't have a problem drinking or smoking with anyone. I guess, what is it when you're drinking or smoking that you really want to enjoy? I mean, what is it that you want to get? Are you going to get some questions answered, or is it just it's hanging with someone fun to like, convey ideas? I guess it would have to be, this is the thing. I tend to love music, so I like to get deep into musical conversations. But if it was like a real life person, you'd probably bore the crap out of them by like, "Oh, your record's fucking awesome. I love that record. Let's talk about that record." And they're like, "Oh, sure." But I have to think about that. I wish I'd given it some more thought, but bottom line is I'll drink and smoke with anyone.
All
As
right.
long as I'm drinking and smoking what I want to be drinking and smoking, I don't, I, you know, fictional or real life, I'm good.
Well, I think SpongeBob was a good answer, and I definitely know my wife will like that one.
Someone
So,
fun and positive.
and so as a band, what do you think what has been your all's greatest challenge?
Hmm. I guess it's time management. I mean, I'm good at time management and getting things done. But when you have four individuals and with this kind of music, again, it's not a full-time job, and people have lives beyond music. So it's trying to manage everyone's time beyond the band, and just to make sure that band things happen. I mean, and I think we've been good about recording. I mean, 10 years, we probably have 10 records. So compared to other bands, that's probably, as far as accomplishment wise, that's fine. But that kind of takes work, and then fitting in live shows and things like that. Because again, people have to work, people have families, people have things to do beyond music. And that's always usually the biggest challenge. It's not that, everyone wants to record, everyone wants to play out. But again, everyone also has other commitments as well. So I'd say that was probably the biggest challenge, is arranging everyone's schedule to make sure that people get to do the things that they need to do and want to do, but also that there's time for the band to get things done. And that's probably been the biggest challenge, but I enjoy that challenge.
Yeah, definitely. And with being four different individuals, do each of you have, say, a different favorite album out of your catalog?
I'm sure that everyone has their choice. I always like to think that and this is probably every musician probably says that, but it's the latest that's always like the favorite, because it's the freshest, and you feel like your writing is matured and the recording process you're more comfortable with. I think 79 AE sounds the best. But again, when you're a listener and you're not involved in the band, your opinion can be completely different. I know that people tend to gravitate more towards the glitter of infinite hell. That was and when I go back and listen to that record, I think it's really good as well too. But it's about the tunes, and so everyone's going to be different. I don't know if we've ever talked about which one everyone's favorite. People tend to have songs that are favorites, but also when it's time to pick a set list, that's usually when you kind of get ideas from people of like, okay, this is kind of what I like. This is what I like to see us playing. So, but we got so much material and so little time to play that you really gotta have to choose. So.
Now, and have you guys ever talked about like music videos, even though like instrumental, doing any kind of like animated music videos or anything like that to even help assist telling the story of one of your albums?
We've done music videos, quite a few in that past, actually. And weirdly enough, our drummer and our bass player are in the video business to some extent. They have video experience, so they're like primed, at least certainly to create. But we've done it before. Certainly music videos, sections of songs, so they usually run no more than 7 or 8 minutes, which still is probably a lot of time.
Mhm.
Um, I like really enjoy the medium. It's of creating videos. It's very time consuming, and I don't think we've ever gone down the route of like paying someone to create one. Although I'm kind of tempted to do that as well too, just because I enjoy the art form.
Yeah.
We were actually considering maybe like doing a filming a performance. This was a pandemic thought. I think every band had the idea of filming a show, a set, and I was just playing live. We never pulled the trigger on that one, but there's always time. But yeah, we're not averse. We've done music videos. We're definitely considering doing more in the future. It's trying to decide whether we do it ourselves or whether we bring someone else in to make it happen. And we're not averse to working with other people, but it's like anything, it's trying to make it happen along with the 30 other things that need to happen.
Awesome. Yeah, you said you guys are heading back into the studio in March. So you're planning on, I guess, releasing a new album sometime middle of this year or something like that?
We have that's the one that we're recording in March is all new material, and so we've got to figure out once it's done, work with a label to figure out when that's going to happen and when that's going to come out. In the meantime, we've got a live in studio record coming out at the beginning of February. We just got that back, and I think it's the first Friday in February. We'll announce it the first week in February. So that's going to be a new record, but it's basically our set list from last year, recorded in Birmingham, and so that's going to be essentially. So I don't know if I guess technically it's a new record, but it's a live in studio record. So that's coming out. Then we're going to do a reissue of Evil Eye. That's coming out on vinyl and CD, probably in the middle of the year. That's with Interstellar Smoke Records in Poland. And so somehow we're going to try and figure out where this new material is going to, hopefully it'll come out on Majestic Mountain Records. But, when you're actually when we're doing it ourselves, we can kind of pick and choose when things come up. When we're dealing with labels, you're working on their schedule and you're working on their dime and, when they can afford and the other bands that they have to put out. So it's a little up in the air. It'd be great to come out this year, but we're realistic with that, and we'll see what happens. But there's always more things, Clouds Taste Satanic things to get. So usually no one runs out of options in any given year for some sort of either vinyl, CD, or download.
Mm-hmm. Well, definitely looking forward to it.
Thank you, man. I
So,
appreciate that.
well, dude, we definitely appreciate your time, man. And yeah, we will keep the audience updated on the music, and yeah, definitely give our well wishes to the rest of the members of the band. And yep, thank you for being with Darkest Goth, dude.
Well, thank you for having me, and definitely will pass along. Really appreciate it.
Oh yeah, thank you, man.
Take care.